Hello, friends. Before we start today's stories, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment which story you like most, where you're from, and what time you're watching. That way, YouTube will keep showing you stories just like this one. Now, let's begin. I've been a deputy sheriff for nearly 15 years. I've responded to everything you can imagine. Domestic disputes, bar fights, break-ins, suicides. But nothing ever haunted me quite like that night in Hollow Creek. It was the kind of town you could drive through in under 5 minutes. One gas station, one diner, and about 50 houses scattered between the woods. The kind of place where everyone knew everyone, and outsiders stuck out like ghosts. That night, it was late October. The fog had rolled in thick, so thick you couldn't see more than 20 feet ahead. The dispatcher, Martha, radioed me around 1:43 a.m. Unit 12, we've got a missing person report from Hollow Creek. Caller says her son went out to check the shed around 10 p.m. and hasn't come back. Name's Danielle Harlow, address 314, Maple Lane. I sighed. Another runaway or drunk teen wandering the back roads, I thought. But there was something in Martha's voice, a hesitation. You okay, Martha? Yeah, it's just Danielle said she's been hearing voices outside the house. She's alone. She sounds terrified. The fog was swallowing the highway as I turned off onto Hollow Creek Road. My cruiser's headlights cut through it like knives, but the mist closed in just as fast. The radio kept crackling, fading in and out. Static bled through the frequencies, odd even for this area. By the time I reached 314 Maple Lane, I could barely see the front porch. A single yellow light glowed behind the curtains. I stepped out, the gravel crunching under my boots, hand resting on my holster. Danielle Harlow answered almost immediately, pale and shaking. She looked mid-30s, hair messy, eyes bloodshot. Deputy, thank God. You came quick. Mom, tell me what happened. It's my boy, Tyler. He went to the shed about 3 hours ago. I called for him, but I heard him calling back, only it wasn't his voice. That made me pause. What do you mean it wasn't his voice? It sounded like him, but deeper, slower, like someone pretending she pointed toward the backyard. The fog there was so dense it looked like a wall. I could see the faint outline of a shed light flickering in the distance. I told Danielle to stay inside and lock the door. As I stepped into the fog, the sound changed. Everything grew quiet. No crickets, no wind, just my own breathing. The radio crackled again, static, then a whisper. A voice came through. Deputy, I froze. Martha, that you? No answer. Then again, clearer this time. Deputy Hayes, come to the creek. I didn't remember ever saying my name on the line. I reached the shed. The door was slightly open, creaking back and forth. Inside, the bulb swung from the ceiling, casting wild shadows across the tools. Tyler, I called out. No response, but something scraped in the corner, a slow, dragging sound. I aimed my flashlight, expecting a raccoon. Instead, there were bare footprints in the sawdust, small ones. They led out the back, straight into the woods behind the property. The ground was soft, soaked from the fog. I followed the tracks carefully, one hand on my weapon. The deeper I went, the stranger it got. The air smelled wrong, like iron and rot. Then I heard it, a child's voice, distant, echoing through the fog. Mom? Mommy, it sounded like Tyler. I started running toward it. The voice came again, Closer. Too close. "Mommy, it's cold." "Tyler, it's Deputy Hayes," I yelled. "Stay where you are." The voice answered from behind me. "Deputy Hayes?" I spun around. Nothing. Just the fog swirling. Then, out of nowhere, my flashlight flickered and died. Only the faint red glow of my cruiser's taillights in the distance remained visible. Something moved between me and that light. Tall, thin, almost human. It just stood there, its silhouette barely outlined by the red haze. And then I heard it again. The same voice as before, but distorted, like it was coming from inside a hollow tube. "Deputy Hayes, he's here." I shouted for it to stop, but it didn't move. When I raised my gun, the radio on my shoulder let out a deafening burst of static. "Leave," the voice hissed through it. "He's ours now." The figure turned and melted into the fog, vanishing completely. I ran forward, heart pounding, flashlight useless, radio dead. The footprints reappeared for a moment, then stopped at the edge of Hollow Creek. The water was black, still, reflecting nothing. Floating in the center was Tyler's little red jacket, but there was no boy, no sound, just that awful silence. I searched the creek till sunrise with 3 more units. No trace of him. Divers came later, nothing. The case was ruled an accidental drowning. But I knew what I heard that night. And here's the thing that keeps me awake. 3 days later, I was driving past that same road when the radio crackled. Again. Through the static, a child's voice whispered, "Deputy Hayes." I found the creek, and then silence. I was working night patrol in rural Arizona back in 2011. Our department was small, just 6 of us, covering a spread of highways and desert that stretched for miles. The kind of place where calls were rare after midnight. But when the phone rang at 2:47 a.m., it wasn't the usual drunk driver or coyote complaint. It was from the Desert View Motel, an old, decaying place off Route 86 that hadn't seen real business in years. The clerk said a guest had been banging on the front office door, screaming about someone in his room. By the time she called us, the noise had stopped. She asked if we could check it out. I arrived 10 minutes later. The motel sign buzzed faintly. Half the letters burnt out. W Motel. A single vending machine hummed by the office window. Inside, the clerk, a frail woman in her 60s, looked pale as paper. "He was in room 9, she told me. Said someone was watching him through the mirror." "You mean like a two-way mirror?" I asked. "No." He said the reflection wasn't his. That sent a chill through me, but I shrugged it off. Probably some meth head. Happens out here more than you'd think. I walked down the row of rooms. The desert wind was howling now, pushing sand across the parking lot. Room 9's door was closed, but I could see faint light leaking out from underneath. I knocked, no response. "Sheriff's Department," I called out. "Sir, are you okay?" I tried the handle, unlocked. The door creaked open. The smell hit me first, something metallic and rotten, like dried blood and mildew. The room looked untouched, 1 bed, 1 chair, flickering TV showing static. But the bathroom door was shut tight. I called again. No sound. When I nudged it open, my flashlight beam hit something that made my stomach twist. There was a man sitting on the floor, mid-30s, unshaven, eyes wide open. He was alive, but barely breathing, shaking uncontrollably, and he was staring directly into the bathroom mirror. "Sir, can you hear me?" "Don't look," he whispered. "What?" "Don't look at it. It copies wrong." I followed his gaze despite the warning, and I swear on everything, my reflection wasn't right. It was me, but my mouth was smiling, even though I wasn't, just slightly, like it knew I was looking. I blinked, it matched again. Normal. The man started crying, whispering to himself. It moves when I sleep. It stands behind me. I called for backup, then turned to help him up, but he jerked away, screaming, "No, it's behind you now." I spun around, gun drawn. Nothing there. That's when the mirror cracked from the inside, a hairline fracture spreading like lightning through glass. And for a split second, I saw movement inside the reflection. A shadow crawling backward into the cracks. The mirror went completely black. Not shattered, not reflecting, just black, like a hole. My radio cut to static. The TV in the other room flicked off, and all the lights dimmed at once. The air felt heavy, pressing against my skin. Then came this sound, a scraping, like fingernails dragging across metal. It echoed from behind the mirror. I grabbed the man, pulled him out of the room. He kept crying, muttering, "It's not me in there anymore." By the time backup arrived, the mirror was back to normal, unbroken, reflecting everything perfectly. The man was incoherent, kept repeating his name wrong, calling himself Tom 1 second, James the next. We took him to the hospital. Next morning, the motel clerk called to say he'd vanished. The bed was made, his belongings gone. But there's one more thing that never sat right with me. The following week, I was shaving before my shift, looking in my own bathroom mirror. And for a second, just 1 second, the reflection lagged. My face moved slower than it should have. And when it caught up, my reflection was still smiling. I worked for the Nevada Highway Patrol for 7 years. There's something uniquely eerie about desert highways at night. The kind of silence that feels alive. The air doesn't move. The stars look too close. And even the radio static sounds like breathing. It was 3:18 a.m. when dispatch called in a report of a body on Highway 41 near mile marker 233. A trucker had pulled over after spotting what looked like a person lying on the shoulder. He said it wasn't moving. I was about 15 minutes away. When I arrived, I could see the trucker's rig parked a few hundred feet up the road. Hazard lights blinking like red eyes through the dark. I parked behind it, grabbed my flashlight, and stepped out into the dry wind. There it was, a body, face down, arms stiff, maybe 6 feet from the white line. Male, mid-40s, jeans, and a torn flannel shirt. I radioed in. "Dispatch, I've got eyes on the victim." No visible movement. Starting approach, I crouched down beside him. The body looked pale, bloodless, but not from injury, almost like it had been drained. I reached for the neck to check for a pulse. The skin was ice cold. Then, before I could say another word, my radio crackled again. "Unit 5, do not approach. Repeat, do not approach. We have another call. Someone matching your description is standing on the highway near mile 234. I froze. "Say again." Another driver just called in. Said there's a man in a highway patrol uniform waving them down a mile north of you. My hand went numb. There was nobody else on duty out here tonight, just me. I turned slowly back toward my cruiser. That's when I noticed something. The trucker's rig was gone. I hadn't heard it start. I hadn't seen the lights fade. It was just gone. And the desert was silent again. Then the body behind me exhaled, a long, dry, rattling breath. I stumbled back, drawing my gun, flashlight trembling. The man's head turned slightly, bones cracking, and he whispered something that still echoes in my mind. "You shouldn't have stopped." I fired once into the dirt. Pure panic. He didn't move again. I radioed dispatch again, but the line was dead, just white static. Then, out of the static, a faint voice came through. "Unit 5, what are you doing?" "Out here." It sounded like me, my own voice, exactly my tone, my cadence. The body twitched again, and the headlights from my cruiser flickered like someone had brushed past them. I turned to see another patrol car, same make, same unit number, parked directly behind mine. But it was impossible. My car was already there. The engine in the second one was idling. Through the windshield, I could see someone sitting inside. Their silhouette looked identical to mine. I walked closer, flashlight aimed at the window. The man inside turned his head slowly toward me. Same face, same uniform, same badge number. But his eyes, they were black, not like shadows, like holes. He smiled and mouthed the words, "Go back to your car, officer." Then, both cars' headlights cut out. Everything went black. When I came to, the sun was up. I was sitting in my cruiser on the side of the road, engine off, radio hissing faintly. There was nobody, no trucker, no second patrol car. Just sand and silence. Dispatch said I'd gone off radio for 3 hours. When they traced my GPS, it showed I'd been driving, looping the same 10-mile stretch over and over again. I requested a transfer 2 weeks later. I still don't drive that road at night. And sometimes, when the desert wind picks up, my dash cam light flickers, and I can see my own face grinning back in the reflection of the windshield. I used to work at a small town department up in northern Montana. Population maybe 2,000 people. We had one main street, a diner, and a station with exactly 4 holding cells. I'd pull night shifts there sometimes, just me and one other deputy. It was usually dead quiet until the winter of 2015. We had a suspect brought in from a domestic call. Guy named Earl Turner, mid-40s, scruffy, smelled like whiskey and rot. He'd beaten his girlfriend badly, but when we got him into booking, he just kept staring at the ceiling, mumbling to himself. "He's in here too," he kept saying. He never left. I assumed he meant God, or the devil, or whatever excuse drunks come up with when they sobered up in cuffs. We put him in cell 3, far corner, the coldest one. And that's when things started changing. Around 2 a.m., I was doing rounds. The lights in the hallway flickered, like they always did when the wind hit the power lines. But this time, I heard whispering, soft, rhythmic, like someone praying. It was coming from cell 3. I walked over, peered through the bars. Earl was sitting cross-legged on the floor, eyes closed, whispering fast. I couldn't make out the words. "Earl," I said, "you okay in there?" He didn't respond, just stopped suddenly, turned his head slightly, and grinned. "He likes you," he said. I frowned. "Who?" "The one in the wall." The temperature in the hall dropped like a freezer door opened. My breath fogged instantly. I stepped back, radioed Deputy Cole in the office. "Hey, you hear anything weird?" "Nah, just the wind." "Why?" "Forget it." I went back to my desk, but that whispering kept replaying in my head. Earl refused food, refused water, just sat there, staring at the concrete wall beside his bunk. Cole said he caught him talking to it, arguing with it. "You said you wouldn't show him," Earl whispered when Cole walked past. "You promised." By midnight, Cole was gone. leaving me alone for the next shift. I made coffee, turned up the radio, tried to stay awake. That's when I heard the door buzzer at the front entrance. A single buzz. We hadn't buzzed anyone in. When I checked the monitor, the screen was nothing but static. Still, the door clicked open by itself. Slow, deliberate. Footsteps echoed through the hallway, but the motion lights didn't trigger. Someone or something was walking through that station unseen. I grabbed my flashlight and moved toward the holding cells. Every door was shut, every cell locked, except cell 2, the one next to Earl's. Its door was wide open, but we hadn't had anyone in cell 2 for weeks. Earl started laughing softly. "Told you," he said. "He never left." I looked at the empty cell. There was writing scratched into the wall. Long vertical marks, like nails dragging through cement. I leaned closer with my flashlight. It wasn't writing, it was fingers. Human fingers. Embedded in the wall, petrified gray, like they'd been there for decades, and one of them twitched. Earl was gone. I mean that literally. Cell door locked, bedding undisturbed, no sign of struggle. We reviewed the footage. The cameras froze at exactly 3:13 a.m. All 4 cells, every angle. When the feed came back, the cell was empty. The sheriff ordered us not to talk about it. He said Earl probably escaped, but we all knew that wasn't true. A week later, I was alone again on the night shift. Snow falling outside, radio's quiet. And then I heard it. That whispering. Coming from cell 3 again. The one that should have been empty. It was faint, but I recognized the voice. "He likes you, Deputy." I walked to the cell, every step heavier than the last. The air was thick, damp, cold, like walking into a basement. When I shined my flashlight inside, the bunk was empty. But the wall was wet, like it had just been washed, or something had come through it. Then I saw it, faint, gray fingerprints sliding across the concrete from the inside out, dragging slowly downward. I stumbled back, and in the reflection of the steel bars, I saw Earl's face upside down, smiling just behind me. I turned, nothing there. The whisper came again, closer to my ear this time. "He likes you?" I quit 2 days later. I told everyone it was burnout, long nights, bad coffee. But truth is, I still hear that whisper sometimes, especially when I pass by any building with cinder block walls. Sometimes if the light hits just right, I swear I can see a face pushing out from behind the concrete, mouth moving without sound. And if I stay too long, I start to hear it again. "He likes you." I used to work as a 911 dispatcher in Lincoln County, Nebraska. 3 years on the job, nights, mostly. If you've ever worked dispatch, you know the rhythm. Hours of silence, then chaos, then silence again. But one night in 2018 broke that rhythm completely. It started with a call at 2:12 a.m. The line clicked open and all I heard was breathing. Slow, uneven, like someone was trying not to be heard. 911, what's your emergency? I said. He's here, a woman whispered. I straightened up. Mom, who's there? He's in the house. I started tracing the call. Came up as a landline, registered to an address in the old part of town. 1128 Clearwater Drive. It was an abandoned property, burned out 2 years prior. No active utilities, no residents. Mom, can you tell me your name? He said my name, she whispered. He said it wrong. Her voice shook like she was crying, but trying to keep quiet. Where is he now? I asked, behind the door. I can see his shadow. I signaled the deputy on duty, Officer Ramsey, to roll to the address. He was already grabbing his keys. The woman's whisper grew faster. He keeps saying my name wrong. Mom, stay where you are. Help is coming. He's not moving. He's just standing there. There was a pause. Then she whispered, "Can you hear that?" I heard it too. A faint clicking sound on the line, irregular, like nails tapping the receiver. Then a low rasping sound, almost like a growl, but mechanical. I muted my mic and looked at Ramsey's tracker. 2 minutes out. I unmuted again. "Mom, stay with me. Can you lock the door?" No answer. Then, in a voice that didn't sound like hers at all, the line whispered, "You shouldn't have called." The call cut out. Ramsey arrived at Clearwater Drive. The house was nothing but a charred skeleton. No roof, no lights, no sign of life. He radioed in. "Dispatch, are you sure this is the right address? This place is a ruin." I double-checked the trace. It was accurate. I told him the call had come from that number exactly 1 minute before. "That's impossible," he said. "There's no power here." As he walked around the property, I heard his radio crackle. A faint sound bled through. Static, then a whisper. "Ramsey." He froze. "Dispatch, say again?" "That wasn't me," I said. "Stay where you are." But the whisper came again, louder. "Ramsey, she said my name wrong too." I heard his breathing spike through the radio. "Dispatch, I've got movement inside," he said. "Someone's in there." Then the line filled with this screeching noise, metallic, sharp, like feedback from a dying radio. I could hear Ramsey shouting, then a thud, then nothing but silence. I kept calling. "Unit 9, respond. Ramsey, do you copy?" No answer. A minute later, the phone line lit up again. Same number. 1128 Clearwater Drive. I picked up. 911, what's your... But the voice on the other end wasn't the woman's. It was Ramsey's. "He said my name wrong," he whispered. "Ramsey, where are you? Are you okay?" "He's behind the door." Then I heard the same clicking sound. Again. Nails on the receiver. Tap, tap, tap. "Ramsey, answer me," and then the line went dead. They sent 2 more units. They found Ramsey's cruiser parked outside the property, lights still on. His body cam footage was reviewed later, but there was nothing. No movement, no intruder, no woman. Just Ramsey walking through the burned-out shell of the house, whispering, "Mom, can you hear me?" Then turning his camera toward the corner of a room that didn't exist anymore. The last frame showed him staring at the blackened wall, mouth open slightly, whispering something over and over again. When the techs enhanced the audio, they realized what he was saying. He said my name wrong. The call log from that night was pulled. The recording was intact, but there's a 7-second gap of total silence where her voice should have been. During that silence, the spectrogram shows a shape, not a waveform, a face. And every few nights since, around 2 a.m., the dispatch phone still lights up. Same number, 1128 Clearwater Drive. Always silence. Until, right before it disconnects, the line whispers, "He said your name wrong too." I've been with the Montana Highway Patrol for 12 years. I've seen my share of wrecks, suicides, and lost hikers. But in all that time, I've never heard anything like what happened in Dead Man's Hollow. It was early March of 2019. Freezing cold, snow still clinging to the trees. We got a call from a family camping near the forest. that their teenage son, Eli Parsons, had gone missing around 10:30 p.m. He'd gone to gather firewood and never came back. It's the kind of call we get every few weeks, but something about the mother's voice was different. She wasn't panicked. She just kept saying, "He's calling us." But it's not him. We arrived at their campsite. The father, mother, and younger daughter were sitting near a dying fire. The mom looked hollow-eyed. She said Eli had been gone for hours, but they kept hearing his voice calling from the woods, saying, "Mom, come get me." But every time they called back, the voice moved farther away. The father had tried following it once, but said the sound split into two voices, one behind him and one ahead, both calling the same words. We set up a perimeter and called in 2 search units. I stayed with my partner, Deputy Hall, and the father, Mark Parsons. We started down the North Ridge Trail with flashlights and radios. At first, it was dead silent. Then, from deep in the dark, we heard it. "Dad." It was faint, the kind of faint that shouldn't carry through miles of trees. Hall looked at me. "You hear that?" I nodded. "Eli?" The voice came again, closer this time. "Dad, I can't find the light." We picked up speed, scanning the trees. No footprints, no broken branches, just a straight trail, untouched snow. "Eli, stay where you are," Mark shouted. The voice paused, then laughed. It was short, breathy, wrong, like someone trying to imitate laughter but not knowing how. Then the voice said, "Dad, he found me." We stopped. Hall turned to me whispering, "You heard that, right?" I nodded. "Yeah, he found me." Mark looked like he was about to break. We radioed back to base, told them we needed thermal drones in the air. They sent one up, circling over our GPS signal. On the monitor, there were only 3 heat signatures, us. But behind us, about 50 yards away, a 4th heat signature appeared. For 3 seconds, then it vanished. "Could be interference," Hall said, but his voice didn't sound sure. Then the radio on my shoulder crackled. "Dad, come get me." I froze. That voice didn't come from the woods. It came through my radio. "Eli," I whispered. Static. Then again. "He says you can't see him unless he wants you to." The feed cut to silence. The thermal drone picked up another blip. This one right beside Mark. But to our eyes, there was nothing there. No movement, no breath, just stillness. Mark turned his head slowly and whispered, "Do you smell that?" It hit us seconds later, this metallic, rotting smell, like blood and burnt hair. Hall gagged. The drone feed glitched, flickered, and then cut out completely. Then something whispered from the tree line. "He's right behind you." Mark spun around, flashlight sweeping. Nothing. Then, clear as day, from right beside my ear. Wrong light. We found Mark's flashlight first. It was lying in the snow, still on. His footprints ended 5 feet away, just stopped. No sign of struggle, no other prints. Hall was shaking now. "We're leaving." I don't care, but when we turned to head back, there was a figure standing in the path. Pale, thin, not humanly thin. Bones visible even through the dark. It had Mark's face, but the mouth was wrong, stretched too far, like it had been smiling too long. And when it spoke, it used Eli's voice. "Dad, he found me." I fired, twice. The sound echoed through the trees, but the thing didn't move. It just tilted its head, and in that same whispery voice said, "He said your name wrong too." Then it folded into the dark, like smoke being sucked away. We made it back to the base camp. Hall quit the force that night. They never found Mark, Eli, or the mother after that. The daughter was the only one left. When asked what happened, she said, Eli came back, but he didn't have his voice. That patch of forest, Dead Man's Hollow, was officially sealed off a year later after 4 more disappearances. Every few months, hikers report hearing a boy's voice in the distance. Always the same thing. Dad, wrong light.